Welcome to Women's Social Corner. I am Janvi and this is Editor's Pick. On our show today, we have a very special guest. She is Renu Pokharna. She works extensively with public policy and she is also the founder of an organization called India Recycles and another organization called Mazdoor. So let's get the conversation going. Renu, welcome to Women's Social Corner.
Thank you.
To start with, how do we explain what is public policy to our audience, in a simple language?
So public or policy, अगर आप दो words देखें तो those two words themselves are sort of explanatory. Yeah. Public is people at large, all of us, right? And policy is essentially the rules that govern us. Now the rules could be legislations, the rules could be any kind of other, general rules that are being passed in the government, in the parliament, in the bureaucracy. But basically क्या होता है कि every aspect of our lives, and we don't realize this by the way, we think that public policy means civics का subject है, या you'll have to watch Lok Sabha channel to understand public policy.
It doesn't impact me.
Or it doesn't impact me. I can sort of make money, go to my house, take my family for an outing, watch a movie, and it's okay. I don't have to be a part of it. But the thing is, everything from going from your house to watch the movie to eating is determined by public policy. Yeah. For example, what you're eating. Now, if you're in Gujarat state, you can't order a beef patty because beef is banned here. That's a policy. But if you go to Kerala, you can order a beef patty because in Kerala you can have beef. So what you're eating, what you're drinking, you can't have alcohol in Gujarat again. So that itself, from what you eat to what you drink, is being determined by public policy. What movie you're watching, if you go to the mall to watch a movie, आप जो पिक्चर देख रहे हैं ऐसा नहीं कि आप देख पाओगे, कुछ पिक्चरें हैं जो बैन हो गई हैं, वो भी एक पॉलिसी है. तो आप क्या कंटेंट देख रहे हो, एंड राइट नाउ यू हैव अ वेरी कंट्रोवर्शियल डेटा प्रोटेक्शन बिल कमिंग इन द पार्लियामेंट. और वो इतना कॉम्प्लिकेटेड बिल है कि कोई उसकी बात नहीं करना चाहता, लेकिन दैट्स द आइडिया दैट अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स बिकॉज द लेजिस्लेशन साउंड वेरी कॉम्प्लेक्स, वी डोंट रियली बिकम अ पार्ट ऑफ इट. बट इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू एंगेज इन पब्लिक पॉलिसी बिकॉज typically, the only engagement most citizens have is they would just vote. So election आया, and वो भी national election, state और city election तो इतना important होता ही नहीं है. लोग national election में जाते हैं because publicity ज़्यादा होती है, वो अपना वोट कास्ट करते हैं, and then they बड़े proudly वो finger में जो mark होता है उसके साथ एक फोटो लेते हैं कि हमने आज democracy के लिए काम किया. फिर 5 साल तक भूल जाते हैं democracy को. तो उसके बाद 5 साल में क्या हो रहा है? Nothing. There are no civic communities, there are no citizen engagement forums, there are no ward committees. So everybody then spends time complaining कि रोड खराब है, ट्रैफिक की इश्यूज बहुत हैं, या लोग कचरा सड़क पे फेंक रहे हैं, पेड़ कट रहे हैं. But this is gonna happen if you don't engage with your city government. So public policy governs every aspect of our lives.
But is there anything specific that really frustrates you regarding public policy? Because with public policy, the another term that is very commonly used is policy paralysis, which we see in the country.
I think the term in public policy that frustrates me is public. Because what happens is in any society, and particularly in any democratic society, I'll specify that word, unless citizens hold the government accountable, unless citizens participate in governance, the government will do anything, and you will only sort of be on the sidelines, and that's not democracy at all. If you look at countries which, America is a very bad example to give now, but most Western democracies have a lot of think tanks. And think tanks का क्या रोल होता है कि वो पॉलिसी की रिसर्च करके आपको बताते हैं कि अच्छी पॉलिसी में क्या क्या हो सकता है, ये गलत है या अच्छी है. मान के चलिए राइट नाउ वी आर इन द सिटी ऑफ अहमदाबाद, and the government here right now has decided that if you park your vehicle in a zone where you're not supposed to park, they'll lock your vehicle. And the locking is done by a third party. So it's not done by the city government, but some third party agency आके आपकी गाड़ी पे एक पीला कलर का लॉक लगा के चला जाएगा, और आप आराम से कॉफी पी रहे हो, बाहर आए पता चला गाड़ी में लॉक लग गया है. Now unless some citizen group actually analyzes कि ये सही हो रहा है, ये गलत हो रहा है, तो उसको आप एनालाइज कैसे करोगे? आप पता करोगे कि एक दिन में कितने लॉक लगते हैं. अगर लॉक लगते हैं तो वेयर इज द मनी गोइंग, बिकॉज टू गेट द लॉक आउट यू हैव टू पे समथिंग. या लॉक लग रहे हैं तो किस एरिया में ज्यादा लग रहे हैं, और जहां पे लग रहे हैं इज देयर अ नो पार्किंग साइन? अदरवाइज हाउ इज अ सिटीजन इवन गोइंग टू नो वेयर नॉट टू पार्क? एंड what is funny here, I'll tell you an incident that happened with me, Janvi, was once this happened to me. I had parked in a place and they locked my car, and when they came, I gave the same argument that show me the no parking sign. Unless you show me the no parking sign, I'm not gonna pay. And immediately the response was that, ma'am, this is the locking is the responsibility of the traffic department, but the no parking sign is the responsibility of the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation. And they don't really talk to each other. So imagine, that's policy paralysis. Exactly what happens is when you have multiple departments which don't talk to each other. So one department will come and dig your road and sewage pipeline लगा के चला जाएगा. दूसरा डिपार्टमेंट आएगा, उसको एक साल बाद याद आएगा कि यहाँ पे तो हमको गैस पाइपलाइन भी लगानी थी, चलो वापस खोदते हैं. फिर तीसरे साल गवर्नमेंट को याद आएगा कि डिजिटल इंडिया मिशन है, तो वापस खोद के अपन को केबल लगाना है. So these three departments should have spoken to each other, decided to do it at one point, but the price paid is by us. And unless we complain, unless we talk, and voting is just one way to, talk in a democracy. There are other ways where you have to send an SMS or a WhatsApp to your MLA, to your local city official, meet them, find a way to meet them, tell them to publish records. Contract किसको दिया है, कितने का दिया है, क्यों नहीं हो रहा है, रोड क्यों नहीं बन रही है, tell them to publish records. So most public, and by public I would only mean the top 10%, not the rest, because the rest don't have time.
But when you say that we need to talk, when people talk, we see, the repercussions. There is a sense of fear.
Right.
We recently saw the case of Kunal Kamra. He spoke and we saw what happened. How do you make sense of what's happening in the country right now?
See, this is where, you get in trouble because you're scared if you speak on camera whether you'll get arrested or not. But I think as a healthy democracy, it's important that we speak up in whichever form we can. Because I'll give you an example. Why Kunal Kamra was also targeted is because he's alone and he's taken on a big state. He's taken on an entire government. But imagine if Kunal Kamra, whatever he said on camera, if 50 other people tweet that. Same thing. Or if 50 other people come on Instagram, post a reel of themselves repeating exactly the same song. There was a song he sang from Dil To Pagale, right? What if 50 people decide, हम 50 लोग भी ये गाना कैमरा पे गाएंगे? Do you think the government is strong enough to arrest 50 people? Or out of 50, let's say 500 more decide some place. So it's also a collective which has to be activated. Because, generally governments are very scared of people. We think we should be scared of government, they are more scared of us, which is why they arrest us. But the problem is, unless people come together in support, that's when, we'll actually have some power, some say. That's when we can actually even have a healthy democracy. Because a democracy doesn't mean that you don't criticize the government. The democracy means that the government is elected by you, paid for by you. It is my tax money, it's my GST that is paying for the salaries of all the MLAs or the MPs. So I have every right to hold them accountable. And in a state where, you have a dysfunctional relationship where the state thinks that you can't speak against them, I think it's very problematic.
Absolutely. I hope the situation doesn't go worse than what we already see.
If it does, I think I'll get 500 people to come and sing the song on a reel, maybe make it viral.
Another thing that you talk and work on is the unpaid labor and the invisible people around us that, they make our lives easy, but we do not give them enough credit. What do you want people to, know about them, or how do we start that conversation around them?
Right. That's a good question, because we have invisibility all around us, and particularly it's growing in our cities, where as India becomes richer, as we get more money, we also have this idea that those who work for us should not be visible. So if you go to buildings now, whether it's any big city, Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, any big city, the buildings will have two lifts, not one. And it clearly says one is somewhere in the back, which you can't find ever, and one is the lift meant for people, whoever, you and me. And the idea is that anyone who's working a certain job should not use the main lift. Now, how do you even define that job? So I always ask this question to people that मेरे घर में जो लड़की, या जो लड़का लड़की जो झाड़ू पोछा कर रहे हैं या जो बर्तन मांज रहे हैं, अगर मैं उनको बहुत अच्छे कपड़े पहना दूं, if I make them dress in a pantsuit and if I make them speak a little English, तो वो किस लिफ्ट में अलाउ करेंगे? उनको सर्विस लिफ्ट में भेजोगे आप कि मेरी रेगुलर लिफ्ट में भेजोगे? क्योंकि आप डिसाइड कैसे कर रहे हो कौन सर्विस लिफ्ट में जाएगा? हाउ आर यू डिसाइडिंग कि अगर कोई इकोनॉमिक कंसल्टेंट आया, कोई IT कंसल्टेंट आया, तो वो भी तो सर्विस ही दे रहा है. तो will he go in a service lift or the regular lift? And if it's somebody who's cleaning your house, will she go in a service lift or a regular lift? Because both are services. But the difference in the service is that not just the outfit, but fundamentally जो काम हाथ से करते हैं. And that's where your entire invisible workforce comes. Whoever works by hand, it could be somebody stitching your clothes, it could be somebody ironing your clothes, it could be somebody washing your house, your car, building your whole homes, construction workers, people selling you something by hand, so street vendors, people who sit outside your homes, guarding your home, security guards. So any sort of this job which is done by hand, which requires physical labor, is particularly seen as नीचा काम या काम जो sophisticated नहीं है, जिसको हम acknowledge नहीं करना चाहते, जिसको हम सोचते हैं कि एक certain तरह के लोग ये काम कर सकते हैं, तो हम करना भी नहीं चाहते. अगर and lockdown के time, when this workforce was going home, that's when we realized their value. But after lockdown, we still forgot. I mean, this is almost 5 years to lockdown today in March, and हम भूल चुके हैं कि भाई इन लोगों ने हमारी life बहुत easy करी है. But we refuse to pay them better wages, we refuse to give them social security, we refuse to give them weekends off. I mean, nobody who, works in the informal sector has the concept of even rest. Saturday, Sunday is time when, we go out with families, we rest at home, we watch Netflix. Where is that time for most of the workforce in the country?
But I've seen that even if you are a cleaner in, say, US, you might not face that kind of discrimination which you would face here. Why do you think it is so that, it's like mentality, it's always us versus them?
Yes. A huge part of this, in my opinion, is to do with the caste system. So the caste system, which has been inherent in India for the last 3,000-4,000 years, essentially says that, सबसे top पे you have people who are intellectual, who are the people who are studying the universities, the academia, and then you have people who are fighting, the warriors, and then you have the traders, and eventually you have people who work with their hands. It could be people who are weavers, people who make handicrafts. So the caste system sort of has told us that certain professions are not respectable, and it's not the same in other countries. In fact, I'll give you an example. I went to this very fancy school in the US, which Trump is right now targeting. So I went to Columbia University. I did my master's there. And one of my classmates at Columbia, who is pretty senior in the New York City government, she recently got married to somebody, and the news was big because she called an Uber, and the guy who came in the Uber was the person she fell in love with. So they got married, and New York Times covered it. It was a very nice story. Now, something like that we can't even imagine in India, because in India we think that there are certain people who are humse different in some way, so you can't even look at them as equals. Whether it is a Zomato delivery person, whether it is a house help, whether it is a construction worker, and it manifests in very subtle ways.
Like you don't even think of hanging out with them.
You don't think of hanging out with them, exactly, and you also don't think of them as people who are equal. As in, I'll give you an example. Like a lot of times I've seen that people who work in your homes, whenever they want to have chai or nasta, there's a very small reserved corner for them to sit in. And वो भी नीचे होगा, कुर्सी नहीं होगी. Generally एक corner में नीचे बैठ के वो एकदम आपसे अलग होके they'll eat or drink their chai.
Different utensils sometimes.
Utensils also are different, and you can't even imagine them sitting on the sofa in the living room, because you will think that's a violation of your space. Or bathrooms. So most domestic workers, आपके घर में जो लोग आ रहे हैं, जो आपका घर साफ कर रहे हैं, आपका बाथरूम साफ कर रहे हैं, वो वही बाथरूम यूज नहीं कर सकते, because we somehow think कि कुछ hygiene का issue है या पता नहीं क्या हो जाएगा. But we don't do the same thing with our guests. If I have guests at my house, they are allowed to use the bathroom, right? Yeah. So why is this person different? And these are very subtle ways in which microaggressions happen to an entire class of people every single day that we completely ignore.
And then we normalize it.
We normalize it, exactly.
We don't even realize.
We don't realize it, we are doing it unconsciously, and it's so deeply ingrained in our genetics, I would say, that it would take a lot of generations to sort of die out.
Yeah. And if we talk a little more about unpaid labor of women, because that's another subset, which suffers a lot more. What are your observations regarding them? We see them that कि site पे भी काम करना है, cooking भी करना है, सुबह जल्दी भी उठना है, बच्चों को संभालना है. There's lot going on.
And I think the unpaid labor of women is not just happening
On the
in the lower strata. It's happening everywhere.
It's happening everywhere.
It's happening in homes. It's happening in the most sophisticated homes, even the richest homes, in very, like, again, very, very devious ways that you don't even realize. So I always give this example that most rich men would sort of go out, make the money, and they would ask their wives to sit on the board of their corporate social responsibility. They'll make big foundations, they'll ask the wives to sit on the board. And I'm like, why is the wife sitting on the board? Why was she not sitting in the boardroom? If you were running a big multi-crore company, she should have been a partner in the company. Why is she only a part of it where she handles the CSR?
Yeah.
And that's sort of this unpaid emotional labor that you sort of, give to women, that you take care of the softer sort of subtle issues in the family. And it happens in the best of families where, I see women getting married, and after that they may not be allowed to work, or they have to do very, kind of jobs which doesn't require them to leave homes. So a lot of them end up becoming home bakers, which is booming in Ahmedabad.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be a home baker. But if you look at the
Why?
strata of home baker, it's the richest women. It's not people from a lower middle class. It's just the richest who are becoming home bakers, so to say, to some extent.
It's such an interesting observation.
It is. And I feel like a lot of these, I would wish that a lot of these women were made partners in the industry, in the companies that their husbands run. But they don't sort of have any role there. It's very, very masculine that I'm going to run the company. You sit at home and bake something and you sell on the side. Why can't she run the company? So in very strange ways, patriarchy sort of plays out. And even in middle class, lower middle class, like if there is a house help in somebody's house and both husband and wife are working, the house help will typically only ask the wife कि दीदी आज खाने में क्या बनाना है, कि दीदी सर्फ खत्म हो गया लेके आओ, कि दीदी साबुन चाहिए, और instead of the husband. Why is she the boss if both are working, both are going out from 9 to 5? Why is she the boss of the house help? Because all the household chores are automatically her responsibility, not the man's.
This reminds me, have you seen the movie Mrs., which was recently
Not yet. I've heard a lot of reviews about it. I haven't seen it yet. But I've realized it's supposedly talking about unpaid labor of women, right? This expectation, and it weighs heavy. And even in subtle compliments, where the way men would give you a compliment for cooking something really well, or doing a household chore really well, and it's also sort of enforcing that patriarchy.
That's still in job description if you want to go for arranged marriages, like
homely,
right?
Yeah. Homely and quiet and pleasant personality. Nobody says I want to marry a loud woman. Nobody wants to marry a loud woman. Why?
True.
Why aren't women allowed to be loud?
But this reminds me, how do you define feminism? Because it is also becoming like ये तो बहुत feminist type है.
Which is sort of sad that being feminist is equated with being angry. People think कि feminist है तो angry है.
Yeah, anti-men.
Yeah, anti-men है, which is not. We are just saying that pay us as much as you get paid. Don't kill us. Don't rape us, which still happens, even as much as we want to sort of bash up feminism. Domestic abuse happens in so many households on so many levels, all over the world, not just India. And essentially, feminism is saying that treat us better. That's it. There's no some kind of big theory to it. And men can be feminists too. If they choose that, okay, women need to be treated better, women need to be paid equally. Household chores or parenting, for example. Parenting also is entirely a woman's responsibility. If you look at all the brands which sell baby clothes or baby products, all the brands are named after mother. Mother care, mother love. Some kind of womanly word would come into it. And I always think, why not father love? Why is the father not giving love, right? Why can't he be as tender as the woman? So somewhere we're also enforcing that patriarchy by saying that all baby products have to be bought by the women. Why not the man? Why not market it to him? Why market cooking oil or a good pan only to women? You look at all the actresses today.
Everything.
Spices, anything to do with the kitchen is typically marketed to women. कि आप अच्छा खाना बना सकती हो. उसमें जो आ रही है वो भी औरत ही होगी. It will be an actress who would be telling you to cook better food, buy a Teflon steel pan, or buy gulab ka whatever cooking oil. It will never be a man telling men कि भाई आप तेल खरीदो क्यों? We are expecting कि women ही तेल खरीदती हैं क्योंकि women ही खाना बनाती है.
We don't even question it.
We don't even
when
question
we see
it.
all the hoardings in the city.
And some of our biggest celebrities sort of become party to it. And that's the culture which pervades all over your society. And partly that's why you see Bollywood with the kind of cinema that comes out. It's very masculine. Very, very masculine. You see big men with, 36 inch का whatever, 56 या 36 जो भी इंच का सीना होगा और एकदम उसमें बहुत रोश, बहुत गुस्सा होगा और दाढ़ी वाड़ी होगी, खूब masculine सा दिखता है. And it's that man is making a comeback, whether it is Animal or Chhawa or Bahubali or any of these movies you see the man as this masculine man, and this woman is this, petty, aise patli kamar wali damsel in distress who is sort of trying to make him a better human being. And somewhere that's also very questionable, that why is it woman's role to fix him? Whatever trauma he has, whatever father issues he has, why is she supposed to fix it?
But why do you think it's 2025 and this kind of content is still working for our audience?
Which is why I think we are going back in time. we are progressing with maybe better cars and electronic vehicles.
Yeah, but when it comes to the mindset,
when it comes to the mind, I also think it's a backlash against feminism. So somewhere, because you have more women in the in universities, more women coming out of their homes working, somewhere I think there is a backlash, and it's not just India. The backlash is happening all over the world. I mean, there's a reason why there's so much appeal to Trump getting elected. Because again, it's a man who's sort of showing that, I can get things done. Very, very masculine quality. How do you get it done is, nobody's questioning that. Or even in Germany, or even in European countries where the far right is rising. And somewhere it's
across the world.
Across the world. It's a backlash against what has happened, the progress that we have made.
Undoing of.
Is sort of, questioning that progress, whether it is with women or with, LGBTQIA. So there's a sort of backlash that is happening.
When we bring this topic, one of the things that you said was rape is a societal crime. It's not an individual crime. If you want to elaborate on that.
I just want to put a disclaimer out there that rape, I'm not condoning rape, so to say. But I want to question rape in the context of patriarchy. Because a lot of times what patriarchy ends up doing is it has this very clear definition of woman and man. And when those definitions are not met, a lot of times men feel entitled to take things from a woman. And entitlement of taking could be anything. It could be you want her body, you want to touch her, you want to do things to her, and if she's refusing, you think it's your right. And that's patriarchy. So I feel that we as a society perpetuate the crime when we sort of keep women, not equal to men. And also, I think, of course, rape happens in urban societies and rural. But I think a lot of rape could be perpetuated also by the conditions that we create. So if you look at societies or countries for that matter where there is conflict, if you look at Sudan, for example, Sudan right now has a raging conflict going on, and rape has become a weapon of the conflict. Same in Afghanistan. I also think that societies which per se suppress people in any sort of way, you would also have more rape happening.
Okay.
And in the Indian context, I think I would say a lot of it also happens because we somehow don't free up both men and women. We have so many restrictions. I lived in Uganda for some time, and Uganda's in East Africa. It's a country which has a GDP which is much lower to India, but it's safer than India.
Yeah, I was going to bring that point. Yeah, you said that
it's safer than India, and partly because it is my experience. When I lived there, I realized that it was also because women were allowed to wear whatever they wanted to wear. Or I shouldn't say allow, but women basically wore what they wanted to wear. Nobody policed it. Nobody said कि skirt का knee के नीचे नहीं होना चाहिए या ये top पहन के रात को मत जाओ.
No judging person's character.
No judgment on anybody. No judgment on men either. So if you're 16, 17, 18 and above, what you're doing is your business. Nobody's questioning. But in India, we have these very strict rules कि if there's an apartment, इस बाहर signboard लगा होगा कि single women, bachelors not allowed. Immediately you're assuming कि कोई भी family के बाहर अगर single है तो वो खराब है. किसी family structure एक pure और अच्छा है, उसमें सारे values दिए जा रहे हैं.
Bachelors not allowed.
Bachelors खराब हैं, single women खराब हैं. So this kind of a culture automatically is saying that men and women are different. We shouldn't allow them to even mix. And in a society like that, you're not allowing the natural order of things to function. so the more restrictions you put, I feel there's more chances of, crime against women that happens. The lesser restrictions there are, it's easier to be a woman, it's easier to be a man, and it's much easier to sort of, not have to do this to each other, so to say.
If there was one policy change that we could propose, what would it be? You think when in context of India, कि ये
against rape or
no in general, or you think it would just favor the society?
I think just freedom to be. It's not so much a policy, but it can translate into policy. So, for example, we stretch this idea of who we can arrest on the basis of what they are saying or doing to a very great extent. There was a beautiful movie, I remember, Masan, which came out some years ago, where there was a couple who were not married and they rent a hotel room and the police comes in and arrests them. And this can happen. Yeah. This can happen anywhere today in India, where if you go to a hotel and if you're not married, they'll ask you for your passports or your IDs and they'll say, oh, if you're not married, we're not going to give you a room. Yeah. So in India, we control the private lives of individuals very, very closely. And by private life, I mean what I'm watching, where I'm going, what I'm eating, who I'm with. It's controlled by the state. So, for example, if I want to marry, let's say, if there is a homosexual couple, they can't marry each other. Yeah. So, love itself is controlled by the state, who you can love or who you can marry.
Even homosexuals, even intercaste.
Even intercaste, for example. So, I think these are things that need not be controlled by the government, whether it is love, whether it is the food I like, whether it is, what I want to eat, drink or watch. I think that shouldn't be controlled by the state. That should be the prerogative of the individual. I decide. And honestly, अगर 18 साल की उम्र के बाद आप किसी को वोट करने का अधिकार दे रहे हो, आप ड्राइविंग का अधिकार दे रहे हो, तो आप इतना तो भरोसा रखो कि they'll make good choices. Yeah. Whether they want to drink a lot or not drink a lot or go out with somebody, trust them. Instead of telling them ये मत करो और Valentine's Day के दिन couples के पीछे जाओ और उनको मारो पीटो जो भी होता है. Why? We are a country where we have one of the highest rates of malnutrition in the world. आज इंडिया में आज भी कुछ 30 से 40% बच्चे ऐसे हैं जिनको खाना नहीं मिलता है ठीक से. हम उसको छोड़ के इस प्रॉब्लम पे ध्यान दे रहे हैं, which is not even an issue. Yeah. So we could be growing, becoming the 4th largest GDP, but if somebody is sleeping without a full meal, I think it's very, very problematic. Yeah.
Here we're talking about India, but if we come to Gujarat and it is like considered one of the safe states for women, what are your thoughts on it? What are the things that, do you think that this is a fact or do you think that is the reality that people don't talk about?
I would say Gujarat is relatively safe, no doubt about it. Gujarat is definitely relatively safe. But the correlation that people draw is something I would not draw. So most people correlate that to liquor. Yeah. The moment they say Gujarat is safe, they say कि safe है क्योंकि लोग यहाँ पे liquor नहीं पीते हैं. I think ऐसा कोई correlation नहीं है. I personally think that honestly, if you're around a man who is in his senses and a man who's drunk, there are higher chances that the man in his senses will harm you more than the man who's drunk, right? He's somebody you can get away from. But the man who's in his senses, who's completely aware of what he's doing, is more dangerous, far more dangerous. But I think that we are also not looking at rural Gujarat. So there are pockets where there is possibility that the crime might be higher, which may not really be coming out. Whether it is the northern belt where you have more patriarchy, where you also have higher female infanticide. So Gujarat has one of the highest rates of female infanticide in India. Those are certain pockets where it's possible that the crime is higher. But overall, I think Gujarat is definitely safer than most states.
True. Is there any politician whose work you admire?
I mean, because I'm somebody who reads a lot, I like the editorials that Derek O'Brien writes. Derek O'Brien used to be a quiz master, then he became a politician. But a lot of the editorials he writes actually talk about what's happening inside the parliament. So he writes about the proceedings, he writes about the debates over a particular bill. And I admire that. I think it's important to sort of, again, bring public policy to people. Yeah. Because we don't know parliament mein kya ho raha hai. We can't make sense of it. But if somebody is coming out and talking in very simple terms to explain it to you, I think that's a pretty good thing.
If we want to make the youth a little more aware about what's going on in society, are there any books or movies or anything that they should experience or see, watch? Because Gen Z अपनी दुनिया में है, you know, they sometimes don't know the realities.
Though I think Gen Z is smarter than us. Sometimes I think we are the ones who are doing more harm than Gen Z. Gen Z is a lot more open-minded, a lot more than us, at least our generation and the generation before that. But one book I particularly like is 1984 by George Orwell, which generally I think most schools or universities have it in their curriculum. So far, we don't know when it might be taken out. But I think it's a fantastic book which talks about a society where if you have uncontrolled power, if you have power given to certain individuals, how it can suddenly go from good to bad, and you won't even know because it's marketed to you so well that you think it's working in your favor when it's not. And it's a very thin, easy read, not like a very big book. So yeah, I think 1984 is a pretty good book to read.
One of few last questions is, I read one of your posts on builders, like, you know, 7 BHK, 5 BHK makan bana hai, 20 crores and then not giving safety equipment to laborers. What do you want to say about, you know, builders who making a lot of money and then this is what we see on ground?
पर इसमें बिल्डर्स की भी गलती नहीं है, क्योंकि ये आपको है ना एक पूरे सोसाइटी के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में देखना पड़ेगा. तो जब भी ऑपरेशन होता है किसी भी सोसाइटी में, ऑपरेशन इज नॉट अ फैक्टर ऑफ अ फ्यू इंडिविजुअल्स, ऑपरेशन इज अ फैक्टर ऑफ हाउ योर सोसाइटी एंटायरली इज फंक्शनिंग. सो अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स व्हाट हैपेंस इज दैट, मान के चलो उस बिल्डर ने कुछ इक्विपमेंट नहीं दिया, सेफ्टी इक्विपमेंट नहीं दिया, लेकिन जो लोग मकान खरीदेंगे उससे, जो 7-8 करोड़ देके 10 करोड़ देके जो मकान खरीद रहे हैं, आर दोज पीपल गोइंग टू ट्रीट देयर स्टाफ बेटर? So when I have a 4 BHK and I have 3 domestic workers working in my house, am I giving them time off? Am I giving them good wages? Am I treating them with respect? Am I treating the person who drives my car with respect? Am I treating, security guards? जब मैं मॉल के अंदर जाती हूँ and you know when I buy a very fancy outfit, I buy 10-12 हज़ार की शॉपिंग की, अपने आप बाहर आ गए, आपने ये एक्नॉलेज भी नहीं किया कि मॉल के बाहर एक बंदा बैठा है 12-12 घंटे तक, आप उसको देखते भी नहीं हो. वी डोंट इवन एक्नॉलेज सिक्योरिटी गार्ड्स, इवन दो आई जस्ट शॉप्ड समथिंग विच वॉज वर्थ हिज एंटायर मंथ सैलरी. सो वी डोंट इवन नोटिस ऑपरेशन गोइंग ऑन अराउंड अस. वी आर इन दिस वेरी बबल लाइक स्ट्रक्चर वेर वी थिंक दैट माई हाउस, माई कार, माई कॉफी शॉप, my entertainment, which could be a play you go to or a concert you go to, the education of my children in a good private school, that's pretty much my life. Unless we recognize that 85% of India is informal sector worker who are not getting paid well, who are exploited, if we don't acknowledge that, then we can't blame the builder. Because the builder is doing exactly what we are doing in his capacity. So I think it's a problem that we as a society have to question, that the top 10%, and I keep saying top 10% because if you read the latest Bloom report which talks of market trends, the Bloom report will tell you कि इंडिया में परचेसिंग पावर, जो अच्छी चीज़ें खरीद सकते हैं, वो खाली टॉप 10% खरीद सकते हैं. तो आप जो डेवलपमेंट देख रहे हो ना, रस्तों पे आपको ज़्यादा BMW दिख रही है, आपको ज़्यादा बड़े बड़े अच्छे ग्लॉसी मार्केट्स दिख रहे हैं, शॉप्स दिख रहे हैं, वो खाली 10% लोग ही खरीद सकते हैं. आपका 90% तो आज भी हैंड टू माउथ एक्सिस्टेंस में है. So unless the 10% sort of wakes up and helps them, because they can't help. If I am somebody who's working on a construction site, मैं 12 घंटे तो काम कर रही हूँ कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट में, वो भी इतनी गर्मी में. अप्रैल में जब 40-44 डिग्रीज का टेम्परेचर हो गया, तब मैं कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट पे काम करके घर जाके अपना चूल्हे पे खाना वाना बनाऊंगी या बनाऊंगा, और फिर मैं सो के वापस सुबह 4-5 बजे उठ के खाना बना के टिफिन पैक करके कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट पे ले जाऊंगी, बिकॉज इट्स नॉट कि कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट पे खाना मिल रहा है. सो मेरे पास टाइम कहाँ है कि मैं गवर्नमेंट को क्वेश्चन करूँ या अपनी खुद की पॉलिसी इंप्लीमेंट करूँ या अपना इवन मजदूर कार्ड बनाऊँ. दैट इज द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ द 10% who have time to sit and chat like this. So if the 10% are not caring, then the country will keep growing, even becoming the 3rd largest GDP, but your cities will still look very unequal, where you might be going in a Mazda or you might have a Porsche on a traffic signal, but उस Porsche के बाहर 4 लोग होंगे जिन्होंने 3 दिन से खाना नहीं खाया होगा. That's not development. So we also have to define as a society, what is it that we want? Do we want bigger, fancier things, or do we want a society where everybody is treated with respect and dignity?
Sure. I want to talk about the other spectrum, where there was a recent case of this girl called Muskan from Meerut. She killed her husband and murdered the husband because she was in love with someone else. And it brought this whole dialogue over women misusing their rights. and women being the evil person in the equation. There is also more going on where they're like pro men rights. How do you see that, especially when it comes to certain laws, women may be misusing it?
So I'll say two things here. One is that data. What is the percentage of women misusing versus what is the percentage of men who are getting away with doing wrong things? So let's say for every Muskan, you would have 100 rapists roaming free or 100 assaulters. Rape to बहुत late दूसरी crime है, लेकिन and I'm sure women watching this can identify with this कि आपके ऑफिस में, आपकी बिल्डिंग में, आपके घर में, आपके रिलेटिव्स में ऐसे अंकल होंगे या ऐसा कोई कजिन होगा जो आपको देखता है थोड़े स्ट्रेंज नज़र से, या आप कहीं जाते हो तो आपको अनकंफर्टेबल लगता है उनके अराउंड, या कोई ऑफिस में ऐसा बॉस होगा या ऐसा कलीग होगा हु टॉक्स टू यू इन अ वे यू आर नॉट कंफर्टेबल, और आपकी यूनिवर्सिटी में दे माइट बी अ प्रोफेसर विथ whom you are studying who sometimes makes remarks which are slightly sort of not very comfortable, a little bit disturbing comments. So for every Muskan there are hundreds, thousands of these men with whom we face this kind of subtle assaults every day, verbal assaults every day, and we're not talking about that. The second thing I would say is that in terms of women misusing, or sorry, in terms of your men. Pro men, I think pro men has to come out, but what kind of pro men are we talking about? So for example, even today, we consider men crying in public as something very not masculine. कि भाई अगर public में कोई किसी को, except for football matches where I think people don't judge, or cricket matches when men are allowed to cry. But apart from that, in any other context, if a man is crying or showing emotion, we think of him as weak. And I think that has to change, where the pro-men's movement has to also talk about men as beings with feelings, men who have, who should be allowed to express, who should be allowed to explore their feminine side. Because if feminism means that we are trying to balance our masculine and feminine sides, then feminism should also mean that men do the same. And right now, there's a huge vacuum where women have sort of come so forward, but men haven't caught up, and men are sort of at loss as to how to deal with this. And there are not enough spaces. There is not much of Men's Day being celebrated, or spaces where men can openly come and talk about what they experience, what they feel, or for example, the pressure of being the earning member. Right? It's always there. So even today, when you go on a date, you always expect the man to pay. As much as we are equal, we also want a little bit of that chivalry, right? So men are also confused कि भाई करना क्या है, हमको check split करना है, अगर हम pay करते तो is she gonna judge me? So I think somewhere there has to be more conversations about what men are feeling, how are they navigating this new woman, this new space, so to say. As long as that's what they are doing, and they are not doing what Proud Boys or the whole incel movement in the US is doing, which I think is very disturbing.
Is there anything else we missed out on? Is there anything else you want us to include?
I think I can talk for hours about everything. But I think I'm just going to part with a message to the viewers that since I've spoken so much about 10% and the 90%, so if you are among the 10%, and how do you know if you're among the 10%? पहले तो अगर आपको इंग्लिश आती है, इंडिया में अंग्रेजी खाली टॉप 5 से 7% लोगों को ही अच्छे से आती है. तो अगर आप मेरा पूरा पॉडकास्ट समझ पाए, यानी आप इंग्लिश मीडियम में पढ़े हो, यानी आपके पेरेंट्स भी शायद इंग्लिश मीडियम में पढ़े होंगे, विच इज़ वाई यू हैड द प्रिविलेज टू स्पीक दिस लैंग्वेज, टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस लैंग्वेज. अगर आपके घर में एक गाड़ी है, अगर आपके बच्चे प्राइवेट स्कूल में पढ़ रहे हैं, या आप कभी बाहर इंडिया के ट्रैवल कर चुके हो, तो आप प्रिविलेज्ड हो, आप विक्टिम नहीं हो किसी भी तरह से, ना आप मिडिल क्लास हो. डू नॉट delude yourself into thinking you're middle class. You're not. In that case, if you're not middle class, you're upper middle class, then please make sure that you treat those around you, particularly who are more vulnerable, and when I say vulnerable, more economically vulnerable than you, with a little bit of kindness, a little bit of respect, a little bit of dignity. And there are ways to do that, right? So let's say when you go out today, wherever you go, make sure that you smile at the security guard. Just acknowledge that they exist. Don't let them be invisible, so to say. When you go to buy something from your street vendor, आप सब्जी खरीदने जा रहे हो, आप आम खरीदने जा रहे हो, अगर वो स्ट्रीट वेंडर 10-12 घंटे सड़क पे घूम रहा है या रह चुका है गर्मी में, try not to negotiate with him, no? अगर आप 1000 रुपए की आम की पेटी आप 900 में ले लोगे, तो 100 रुपए में आपने बचा लिया, कुछ क्या ही हो गया, वो 100 रुपए ऐसे निकल जाएंगे. Next time you buy something on Myntra or Amazon, that 100 rupee will go like this. Why not let him have the extra 100 rupees? For the service he's providing you. Or if you have, If you're buying a new building or a new flat, then make sure that you know the construction company has done its due diligence, treated its workers well, and there are ways to do that. So I would encourage the 10% to sort of be kinder, especially because we are entering summer. And with climate change, our temperatures, everybody can experience it. It's going to go up till 45, 46. So in that heat, when you have the luxury of an air conditioner, they don't. Most workers don't. So try and also be more patient with them. Try and do little acts of kindness. It could be bringing somebody a cold water bottle. Right? When you travel in an auto, you will see the auto walas generally have these plastic big bottles of water. Why not get them a nice insulated water bottle so they also enjoy at least cold water? Get somebody a umbrella, for example, right? There are vendors sitting outside without an umbrella. So little things that you can think of. And to do that, just remember you'll have to be sensitive. That's the only way you'll actually notice. So if you're too busy on your phone scrolling reels all day, you'll probably not even notice what's happening around you. So yeah, try and be more sensitive.
Little things, yeah, that matter. Yeah. Thank you so much, Renu, for your time and for your insights.
Thank you so much for having me on this platform.
And for more such conversations, keep watching Women's Social Corner.